That's on the top of the president's mind, so that will be discussed, as well as the many other positive developments we've seen in the Middle East. I want to go back to the trade deals. As you see, we have these beautiful letters that the president has signed. This one is to the President of the Republic of Korea, original signature on that, and these will be mailed. And then here we also have another letter to the Prime Minister of Japan as well. Both countries will be receiving a 25% tariff rate effective on August 1st. Go ahead.
Thank you so much. You said it, and the president said it many times, you want to see an end to the war in Gaza. Will he give guarantees during this 60-day period of ceasefire that actually the war will end? Because this is a sticking point with Prime Minister Netanyahu, and I'm wondering if they see eye to eye on this point. And how do you see the next day? What the next day in Gaza will look like?
Look, right now the president is focused on today and to get the Hamas to agree to this ceasefire. I don't want to comment on the details of the arrangement out of respect for these negotiations, but an agreeable and appropriate ceasefire proposal has been sent to Hamas. And I can also tell you Special Envoy Witkoff intends to travel to Doha later this week, where he will continue to engage in these discussions. And the Qataris and the Egyptians have been incredibly helpful partners in mediating these negotiations and discussions to bring peace to this region and end this conflict once and for all. Kristen.
Two questions. Thank you, Caroline.
Sure.
The first question is President Trump reconsidering his plan to phase out FEMA, given what officials have said is their critical role on the ground now in Texas?
Look, the president wants to ensure American citizens always have what they need during times of need. Whether that assistance comes from states or the federal government, that's a policy discussion that will continue. And the president has always said he wants states to do as much as they can, if not more. And in the case of Texas, the state and local officials are doing a tremendous job. And I know the president, Secretary Noem, and the federal government are very proud to be working with them. And the president has promised to give Texas the assistance that they need during this tragic time.
Just one follow-up on cuts overall. Over the weekend, President Trump said that Elon Musk was a train wreck. Are there, given this current viewpoint, are there concerns within the White House or from the president himself over the cuts that happened under Musk while he was advising DOJ, including the National Weather Service?
I think I've already addressed that, Kristen, and what I can tell you is that these offices were fully staffed. The San Angelo office was fully staffed with 12 forecast meteorologists. There were no vacancies. The San Antonio office was operating with 11 forecasters. And as Brian said, the union themselves said that there was adequate staffing. So I think those words speak for themselves, and the numbers speak for themselves. This was a once-in-a-century flash flood, a tragic natural disaster, and the administration is doing all that we can on the ground to help these families during this time of need. Jeff.
Thanks very much, Caroline. Just following up on Kristen's question, is it still the president's plan to phase FEMA out by the end of this year?
I just answered Kristen's question for you.
One more, hold on, one more.
Sure, I'll give it to you. Go ahead.
The follow-up on trade as well. 12 more letters coming, you said. Can you give us a sense of which countries those are?
I'll let the president reveal those in very due time. Keep your eyes on Truth Social. Michael, in the back.
Thank you, Caroline. An armed shooter today was shot in McAllen, Texas, after opening fire on Border Patrol agents. It comes just days after Democratic Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal recently said she gets, quote, inspired when activists obstruct ICE. Does the White House expect Democrats to tone down their rhetoric in light of what we saw today in McAllen, Texas?
We certainly call on Democrats to tone down their rhetoric against ICE and Border Patrol agents who, again, are everyday men and women. I would encourage AOC and other Democrats to actually meet with the United States Border Patrol. These are honorable Americans who are just simply trying to do their job to enforce the law. They go home to their families every night just like we all do, and they deserve respect and dignity for trying to enforce our nation's immigration laws and to remove public safety threats from our communities. The White House is aware of the shooting that took place today in Texas, and we are working with the appropriate federal agencies to get to the bottom of what happened.
Caroline, the DOJ and FBI have now concluded there was no Jeffrey Epstein client list. What do you tell MAGA supporters who say they want anyone involved in Jeffrey Epstein's alleged crimes to be held accountable?
This administration wants anyone who has ever committed a crime to be held accountable, and I would argue this administration has done more to lock up bad guys than certainly the previous administration. And the Trump administration is committed to truth and to transparency. That's why the Attorney General and the FBI Director pledged at the President's direction to do an exhaustive review of all of the files related to Jeffrey Epstein's crimes and his death. and they put out a memo in conclusion of that review. There was material they did not release because, frankly, it was incredibly graphic and it contained child pornography, which is not something that's appropriate for public consumption. But they committed to an exhaustive investigation. That's what they did, and they provided the results of that. That's transparency.
Follow up on that,
Sure.
Caroline. Okay, so the FBI looks at the circumstances surrounding the death of Jeffrey Epstein. According to the report, this systematic review revealed no incriminating client list. So what happened to the Epstein client list that the Attorney General said she had on her desk?
Well, I think if you go back and look at what the Attorney General said in that interview, which was on your network, on Fox
I've
News.
got the quote.
Go ahead.
John Roberts said, DOJ may be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients. Will that really happen? And she said, it's sitting on my desk right now to review.
Yes, she was
What?
saying the entirety of all of the paperwork, all of the paper in relation to Jeffrey Epstein's crimes. That's what the Attorney General was referring to, and I'll let her speak for that. But again, when it comes to the FBI and the Department of Justice, they are more than committed to ensuring that bad people are put behind bars. They have an operation going on right now called Summer Heat, which has our murder rate trending in the lowest direction in United States history. Their emphasis on violent crime and locking up violent criminals has led to the arrest of 14,000 violent criminals. That's a 62% increase from the same time period last year. So this Attorney General and the FBI Director are committed to putting bad people behind bars where they belong. They promised an exhaustive review. That's what they did. For any further details, I would refer you to the Department of Justice.
Kate.
Thanks, Caroline. With Prime Minister Netanyahu visiting the White House today, yesterday the president said that he was working on a more permanent deal with Iran, but several days ago he didn't think one was necessary. What changed?
Well, when you asked me about this, or when you all asked me about this several weeks ago, I said the president thought maybe an Iran deal was not necessary, but of course the president is always interested in peace and diplomacy. That remains true, and the administration continues to be in contact, both directly and indirectly, with the Iranians on a deal.
And then on tariffs, you're now delaying the deadline from July 9th to August 1st. Is that an acknowledgement that perhaps the administration found it more difficult to negotiate these trade deals, or whatever happened to 90 deals in 90 days?
No, it's an acknowledgement that this administration is doing what's best for the American worker, and we want the best deals possible for our workers, for our manufacturing base, for our middle class, and they are doing this deliberately and appropriately on behalf of our country's interests. Josh.
A couple more on the tariffs. You said about 12 more letters. There were about 55 or so countries, including the EU as a bloc, that were facing this tariff increase. All of those, to understand me correctly, are now deferred to August 1st, right?
Correct.
And on the 12, what happens with the remaining, whatever it would be, 40-something?
So just 12 today. There will be additional letters in the coming days.
So all of them are going to get a letter at some point?
Correct.
Okay, and can you tell me why he decided to start with South Korea and Japan? Are they annoying him?
It's the president's prerogative, and those are the countries he chose.
And on the sectoral tariffs, it's our understanding that these continue to